Welcome to Dr Joe Unplugged. This podcast contains general information and is not in any way medical advice. It's always great when scientific research catches up with the real world. Data out in the last couple of weeks, quote, "The world's most comprehensive study of exercise and depression has found physical activity, even at a low intensity, has about double the effect of antidepressants on improving low mood in the short term." This was a systematic review published in the British Medical Journal and led by Australian researchers. A systematic review is looking at studies that have already been done. It is new work, the way it's published, but they're not actually recruiting new participants or doing new interventions. They're gathering together what has been done. And this study did a meta-analysis of 218 randomised control trials on various therapies to treat depression. And this is more than has been done previously. Again, quote from the authors, "Even taking conservative estimates, practitioners can expect patients to experience clinically significant effects from walking, running, yoga, qigong, strength training, and mixed aerobic exercise." Now, they don't specifically mention bike riding, but I think you'd be pretty happily conclude that that'll be in there as well. So when we're talking essentially about aerobic and resistance training, which is strength training, this is having double the effect in terms of mood of antidepressants. Again, I'll quote from the authors, "In isolation, the most effective exercise modalities were jogging, yoga, strength training, and this one should be popular, dancing." I've got to put my hand up and say that I'm not probably the most coordinated person who's ever walked the planet. But dancing as a form of exercise, we think about it as a form of fun, maybe on a Friday or a Saturday night, has also been shown to be very, very effective and, in fact, potentially the most effective form of exercise for physical health as well. So it comes in number one for mental and physical health. That's really good for a number of reasons. First of all, it's fairly simple to do, and this is not saying, these studies are not saying that you actually have to get the movements right. You don't have to take up the tango and be able to win Dancing with the Stars. You just need to be able to move your body. Now, the next question may arise as to, well, why should dancing come out on the top above running or cycling or swimming or yoga? And there is not likely to be a cause and effect mechanism found. On this, I'm happy to offer my theory, which is that when we're dancing, we're typically dancing to music. And there's a lot of work that shows that music is good for our mental health. Obviously, it's better if you listen to music that you like. Probably if you're in a mood to dance, you're probably playing or listening to music that you do like. In addition to that, most of the time, dancing will be done with other people. You can do it by yourself. It's okay. But typically it will be done with other people. So in addition to the exercise or movement component, there's also a social component. And in the main, and there might be exceptions, but I wouldn't imagine there'd be too many, you're probably going to be dancing with people that you get on with. And it's fun, and everybody is enjoying themselves. In the current world, as we sit in the early part of 2024, there's a lot of miserableness. And notwithstanding that there are problems in the world that cannot be disputed or denied, but there's also a tendency these days for people to really get miserable over less and less serious issues. There's a war going in your backyard. You've got every reason to be upset and miserable about it. But equally, if there's a war in your backyard, you're going to be focused on what you can do to survive. The types of problems in a lot of the Western world that seem to get people fired up or miserable are often far, far, far removed from anything that's even vaguely life and death. He said something I don't like. We won't get into pronouns at this point, but I think you know what I mean by that. So really, issues that are not serious by any global standard. So what's the good news out of all of this? Well, there's a lot. Number one, exercise is simple to do. It is not expensive. you can go for a walk really wherever you find yourself. Again, if you're in a war zone, maybe there are some exceptions. Always got to entertain that there are exceptions. But in the main, you can go for a walk. There is no cost involved. You don't need to buy fancy, expensive shoes. You can if you want to. It's quite okay. But you don't need to. It is not a requirement. Compared to some other forms of exercise, if you want to take up rowing, for example, you probably need access to a boat, either your own or somebody else's. Again, it's all good. But to walk, you don't need anything. To jog, you don't need anything. If you want to go swimming, depending where you live, maybe you need a car to drive to the beach. You might need to pay a couple of bucks to get into the swimming pool. If you want to take up yoga, you can probably do it at home. Equally, you can join a studio. The cost is not going to be prohibitive. It's a very, very accessible form of treatment if you're feeling low or down. And what this meta-analysis, it's a major meta-analysis, is telling us that not only is it as good as tablets, it's actually better, twice as effective as medications. And there are no side effects to exercise. Some of you might say, well, what if I injure myself? Get your technique right. If you haven't ridden a bike for a while, look, don't go too fast. Go slowly at the start. If you haven't run for years, then start with a slow walk. There are going to be some people, if they haven't exercised for a while, if they have medical conditions, who might be useful to chat or talk with your doctor first. But for most people, taking up some exercise does not need to be expensive. It's simple to do, and the benefits are enormous. One last point on this. Whilst there are benefits to mental and physical health from exercise, you don't have to have any mental health condition to undertake exercise. So there's been previous work done that shows that people who do regular exercise are less likely to suffer from mental health problems, including depression and anxiety. Not a force field, not a guarantee, but reduced risk. And when we see that exercise can improve mood and essentially be more effective than medication, that makes a lot of sense. So ultimately, the issue here, or the take home, is incorporate some activity into your daily life. Get out, do some exercise, do what you like. If you enjoy dancing, take it up. If you don't, do whatever type of exercise that you enjoy and do it regularly. Thanks for listening to Dr. Joe Unplugged. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, and share. You can also follow it on all the socials. There'll be new content uploaded each week.